At dinner, my fiancée's friends demanded I prove my worth by funding their $5,000 Bali retreat. My fiancée agreed. I said, okay. Then I stood up, paid the $12 entry fee, and left. The panicked voicemail I got from her 30 minutes later, when she realized I was actually gone. At my fiancée, Emma's flashy brand launch party, her friends cornered me. Dylan, they cooed. We're planning a Bali retreat to celebrate Emma's success. We need $5,000 from you to prove your capability as her partner. Emma just beamed, nodding. Great idea, she chirped. Show them we're a power couple. Let me figure this out, I said calmly. Then I stood up, walked straight to the check-in desk, paid the $12 for my entry ticket, and left. The utterly panicked voicemail I got 30 minutes later when she realized I was actually gone, leaving her stranded with her friends and their $5,000 demand. Well, that was just the beginning. I'm Dylan, 31 years old. My world runs on data, on logic. I spend my days turning chaos into code, finding patterns, making sense of things. My job is analysis. It's precise. It's measurable. My fiancée, well, ex-fiancée now, Emma, she's 29. She lives in a different world entirely. A world built on vibes, manifestation, and the perfect Instagram filter. She's a life coach and influencer. A rising star, she called herself. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for the last 3 months. Looking back, the contrast was always stark. My quiet nights coding versus her endless stream of content creation. My practical approach to life versus her belief that positive thinking could somehow pay the bills. I loved her energy, her drive. Or maybe I loved the idea of her energy. I told myself the differences were exciting, that they balanced us out. I was wrong. Her friends, Mia, Camila, and Chloe, they were extensions of her online persona. A chorus line of brunch photos, borrowed designer bags, and pronouncements about living their best lives. They operated as a unit, a sort of high-gloss, low-substance ecosystem. To them, I was just there. Emma's stable programmer guy. Reliable. Necessary perhaps, like Wi-Fi or plumbing, but definitely not shiny enough for their main feed. I saw the polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes, heard the faint condescension in their questions about my job. Oh, you work with computers? Like it was some quaint, dusty hobby. I put up with it, because I loved Emma, or thought I did. In my home office sits a workstation. It's not just hardware. It's $20,000 of carefully chosen components, some rare, some irreplaceable. I built it myself, piece by meticulous piece. It's where my side projects live, the algorithms I tinker with after hours. But more than that, the custom cooling system, the salvaged memory modules. They were my dad's. He was an engineer too. He taught me how to build my first computer. That machine isn't just silicon and wires. It's a connection. It's legacy. Emma knew all this. She just called it that noisy metal box that took up too much space. She'd sigh dramatically whenever the fans kicked in while she was filming a TikTok nearby. The indifference. That should have been a louder alarm. The red flags were there, waving frantically, but I coded them out of my perception. Little anomalies I chose to ignore. Like how her contribution to rent and bills became inconsistent. Then just stopped. Always an excuse. My invoice is late. This brand hasn't paid me yet. Can you cover me this month, babe? Big things are coming. I covered it. For 6 months, I covered everything, telling myself I was supporting her dream. Then the demands escalated subtly at first. Babe, that influencer retreat in Tulum looks amazing for my brand, but it's $5,000. My audience expects a certain aesthetic Dylan. I can't be seen driving that old sedan forever. My practicality became a punchline. My suggestions to save to budget met with sighs and accusations of lacking an abundance mindset. She'd say things like, "Stop being so logical, Dylan. You need to manifest more work, less." Or worse, in front of her friends. "Oh, Dylan, he's great, but he just doesn't get the creator economy. Bless his heart." Each comment, a tiny crack in the foundation. I sometimes saw the pressure her friends put on her too. Heard snippets of their conversations. "Emma, you need that new designer bag for the photo shoot. If you want to play in the big leagues, you have to look the part." Maybe she was caught in their game too, trying to keep up. But she made her choices. Which brings us back to that Friday night. The launch party for her new online course, Manifesting Millions, or something equally aspirational. She had asked me to come. Not asked, told me. "You have to be there, Dylan." She'd said, her voice bright but firm. It's crucial for our image as a power couple. You need to show support. Show support? Right. Little did I know the kind of support she and her friends had in mind. She was all smiles, talking about guest lists and signature cocktails. I was just another prop for her perfectly curated event. My role, the supportive, successful adjacent fiancé. I just didn't realize the performance required a $5,000 entrance fee. The launch party was exactly what you'd expect. Gleaming surfaces, strategically placed lighting designed for selfies, the low hum of forced networking. Waiters circulated with trays of colorful, unidentifiable appetizers. Everyone looked busy, important, curated. Emma was magnetic on the small stage, delivering her keynote about aligning your frequency with financial abundance. She spoke with practiced passion about vision boards and letting go of limiting beliefs, specifically the limiting belief that you actually need a budget. The crowd, mostly young women clutching expensive-looking water bottles, nodded along, eyes shining with the promise of effortless wealth. I stood near the back observing. My analytical brain couldn't help but see the metrics, the cost of the venue versus the projected course sign-ups, the overhead of the rented audiovisual equipment, the sheer operational inefficiency of it all. But I clapped when she finished a supportive fiancé playing his part. After the applause died down, Emma, flushed with success, pulled me towards the designated VIP corner, a roped-off section with slightly more comfortable chairs and its own dedicated bartender pouring rosé. Mia, Camila, and Chloe were already there, radiating self-satisfaction. "Emma, darling, you killed it!" Mia squealed, air-kissing both sides of Emma's face. "Totally iconic." "We knew you would," Camila added, already scrolling through her phone, probably posting a filtered photo captioned, "Celebrating my girl boss bestie." We exchanged pleasantries. I complimented Emma on her speech, keeping it brief and neutral. She squeezed my hand, her smile bright. Then the atmosphere shifted. It was subtle at first, like the air pressure changing before a storm. Mia set her phone down, her expression becoming serious, almost theatrical. "Dylan." She began, her voice dropping conspiratorially. "Now that the official part is over, we wanted to chat about something exciting." I waited. My internal threat detection system, usually reserved for debugging code, flickered to life. "As you know," Camila took over, leaning forward slightly, "Emma's brand is about to explode. This course is just the beginning. And we, as her inner circle, her support system." She gestured between the three of them, pointedly excluding me. "Need to operate at the same high frequency." My gut tightened. I knew where this was going. "So," Mia jumped back in, "we've decided a strategic retreat is essential. Bali, 2 weeks, just us girls. To recharge, brainstorm, manifest the next level." "Sounds productive," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "Exactly," Chloe chirped, finally speaking up. "But these things, these high-vibe environments, they require investment. Not just emotional, but financial." She looked directly at me now, her smile sharp. "And that's where you come in, Dylan." The air felt thick. The background chatter of the party seemed to fade. It was just the four of them, a united front, staring at me with expectant eyes. Mia leaned closer, her voice a stage whisper. "We were thinking, as Emma's partner, her #1 supporter, this is your chance to really show up for her. To invest in her success, which is your success, right? We've crunched the numbers," Camila added, pulling out her phone like it was a financial report, though I suspected it was just her notes app. "Flights, the villa, the private yoga instructor. It all adds up. But if we all chip in, it's manageable. We figured $5,000 from each key player." She paused, letting the number hang in the air. "Consider it. Seeding the future empire. $5,000 for their vacation. Demanded of me at her launch party, framed as my opportunity to support her." The audacity was breathtaking. It wasn't about Bali. It wasn't about brainstorming. It was a power play, a blatant, premeditated shakedown, dressed up in self-help jargon. My eyes snapped to Emma. This was it, the moment of truth. Her chance to shut this down, to laugh it off, to defend the man she supposedly loved from this ridiculous ambush. I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Awareness, guilt. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that dazzling camera-ready smile. Voiceover slows, slight pause before the next line. She squeezed my hand again, tighter this time, leaning into me conspiratorially. "Babe," she whispered loud enough for the others to hear, "I think it's a fabulous idea." Her eyes met mine, bright, unwavering. It shows real commitment, that we're a true power couple investing in our future together. You can swing that right, honey. For us, that smile, that expectant, unwavering smile. It wasn't a question, it was a directive. And in that instant, everything crystallized. The red flags I'd ignored, the compromises I'd made, the quiet erosion of respect. It all coalesced into this single defining moment. She wasn't just complicit, she was the architect. This wasn't a test I was meant to pass by paying. This was a test I could only pass by refusing to play. My internal processor kicked into high gear. Input. Blatant financial manipulation disguised as support. Input: fiancé, actively participating in the manipulation. Input: clear evidence of fundamental value misalignment. Analysis: relationship integrity compromised beyond repair. Probability of successful long-term partnership: 0.1%. Optimal course of action: strategic withdrawal. Minimize collateral damage. Execute exit protocol. The decision wasn't emotional. It was logical, surgical. The love, the hope, the shared future I thought we were building, they vaporized, leaving only cold, hard data. She had shown me her true algorithm, and it was fundamentally incompatible with mine. The analysis was complete. The conclusion, undeniable. My decision solidified in the milliseconds after Emma's smile confirmed her allegiance wasn't with me, but with them, with the performance. Action was required. Let me figure this out, I said, keeping my voice even, maybe even adding a hint of thoughtful consideration. Mia, Camilla, and Chloe exchanged triumphant glances. Emma squeezed my arm again, beaming. They thought they'd won. They thought the stable programmer guy would fold, pull out his wallet, and pay for the privilege of staying in their orbit. They miscalculated the variables. I'll be right back, I added, standing up smoothly. Just need to take a quick call outside. Before they could process it, before Emma could switch from smug satisfaction to suspicion, I turned and walked away from the VIP corner. Not towards the exit initially, but towards the front check-in desk near the entrance, where I remembered paying my entry fee. The young woman who'd checked me in earlier looked up surprised to see me leaving so soon. Hey, I said, keeping it casual. It's Dylan, Emma's fiancé. Something urgent came up at work, gotta head out. Thanks for a great event, though. I needed to maintain the facade just long enough to get clear. She nodded politely. Oh, okay. Hope everything's all right. It will be, I said. I glanced back briefly. Emma and her friends were still huddled, probably dissecting my perceived weakness, celebrating their successful power play. Perfect. I turned back to the check-in desk. Actually, could you just confirm I settled my $12 entry fee when I arrived? A small, deliberate gesture, reinforcing my only transaction. Yes, sir, paid in full, she confirmed, looking slightly confused. Great. Thanks again. And with that, I walked out. No backward glance, no hesitation. I pushed through the heavy glass doors and stepped into the cool night air. Freedom. It felt clean, logical. It wasn't about running away from the $5,000 demand. It was about refusing to validate the premise, refusing to participate in their ridiculous game. And in that moment, walking towards my car, I understood a different kind of power. We're often taught that strength is about confrontation, about arguing your point until you win. But there's a greater strength, a quieter power in choosing not to engage. This quiet exit isn't the act of a loser. It's the calculated strategy of someone who recognizes the game itself is rigged, unworthy of their energy. When I said, "Let me figure this out," and walked away, I wasn't surrendering. I was disarming them. I was denying them the confrontation, the drama they craved. By refusing to play my assigned role in their script, I rendered their test meaningless, shifting the focus entirely onto my own next move. It's a paradox sometimes. The only way to win the fight is to refuse to enter the ring. You simply calmly leave the board, taking your most valuable piece, your self-respect, with you leaving them alone with the empty, checkmated reality they created. The drive home was quiet. My mind, however, was running algorithms. Phase 1, extraction, complete. Phase 2, containment, initiated. I pulled over about halfway home, took out my phone, opened the banking app, found Emma's supplementary credit card, the one linked to my primary account, the one she used for, well, everything. Deactivate card. Confirmed. A small satisfying click in the digital realm. Access denied. Next streaming services, Netflix, Spotify, HBO Max, all under my primary email, my payment methods. Logged into each one. Manage devices. Log out all other users. Change password. New complex unguessable passwords generated and saved to my secure vault. Access denied. It wasn't done out of spite. It was logistics. Our partnership agreement, the implicit one, where I provided stability and she provided vibe, had been unilaterally terminated by her actions at the party. Therefore, shared access to resources was now illogical, inefficient, and frankly unwise. My responsibility was now solely to secure my own perimeter. Logic, efficiency, no drama. I finally pulled into my apartment building's garage. My space. Paid for by my code. I went upstairs, poured myself a proper drink, none of that foamy pink stuff, and sat down in the quiet. The storm was coming. I knew it. But for the first time in a long time, I felt prepared. I felt calm. I picked up my phone one last time. Power off. Let the calls go to voicemail. Let the panic build on her end. Phase 3, assessment, would begin tomorrow. Tonight was about silence. The silence lasted until Saturday morning. I powered my phone back on, not out of concern for Emma, but out of necessity. Work emails, family check-ins. The expected digital avalanche hit immediately. 73 missed calls. Over 100 texts. Voicemails stacked up like digital debris. Most were from Emma, a frantic cycle of disbelief, anger demands, and eventually pathetic pleading. Her friends Mia, Camilla, and Chloe chimed in too, mostly with insults and threats about ruining my reputation. Standard playbook, predictable algorithm, delete, delete, delete. But one voicemail, Emma's second one, timestamped about 30 minutes after the first. That one I saved. Her voice wasn't just panicked anymore. It was shrill, bordering on hysterical. Dylan, are you seriously doing this? My card, the main card, it just got declined. Trying to book the Bali villa deposit. Mia is freaking out. They're saying I owe them $5,000 now because I promised your contribution, Dylan. This is your fault. You set me up. You deliberately embarrassed me in front of everyone. Turn the card back on. Now you owe me. You think you can just walk away after 3 years, after everything I did for you, fixing your wardrobe, teaching you which fork to use. You ungrateful. It dissolved into incoherent sobbing, and then abruptly cut off. Fixing my wardrobe, I bought my own clothes. Teaching me which fork I ate at Michelin-starred restaurants for work before I even met her. The delusion was impressive, but the key takeaway still zero self-awareness, zero remorse, only blame, only entitlement, confirmation, bias satisfied. Proceed to next phase. The rest of the weekend was a blur of digital noise I mostly ignored. Texts accusing me of financial abuse. Ironic considering I'd footed the bill for our entire life together for the last 6 months. Calls from her mother, which I let go unanswered after the first lecture about men needing to be providers even when women make mistakes. Messages from mutual acquaintances awkwardly asking if I was okay, clearly having heard Emma's heavily spun version of events. I stayed silent. Let her narrative implode under its own weight. Let the data speak for itself. Then, Sunday evening. Just as I was mentally preparing for the work week, ready to put this whole mess behind me, my phone chimed with one final notification from Emma. Not a call, not a plea, a declaration. It was a screenshot of my workstation in my home office, the machine I built, the legacy from my father. Below it, her text read, "Since you decided to be petty and cut me off financially without warning, I'll be holding on to this. Consider it collateral, or better yet, severance pay for the emotional distress and public humiliation you caused. I invested 3 years into you, Dylan. This $20,000 setup barely covers it. Don't contact me about it again. It's mine now. I deserve it." I read it twice, then a third time. Collateral, severance pay, deserve. She had just in writing admitted to intentionally keeping my personal property, valued well over the felony threshold, and explicitly stated her intent was compensation. She thought she was landing a final blow, asserting her perceived right to my assets. What she actually did was hand me the loaded gun complete with her fingerprints all over it. Checkmate. My fingers moved with cold precision. Screenshots saved. Email composed to my lawyer Alex, already briefed on the situation Saturday morning. Subject urgent, evidence of conversion and intent. Body Alex, please see attached screenshot received moments ago. Emma is explicitly stating her intent to permanently deprive me of my personal property, valued at approximately $20,000 as severance. This property was acquired years before our relationship. Please proceed immediately with the formal demand letter for return of property we discussed. Specify a 48-hour deadline for compliance before we file a civil suit for conversion and initiate a criminal complaint for felony theft. See, here's the smart detail. the part Emma's manifestation coaches never taught her. An engagement ring, depending on the state, can be a messy legal grey area, a conditional gift. But a $20,000 custom computer workstation, built with parts verifiably purchased before she even moved in, containing irreplaceable components linked to my deceased father. That's not marital property. That's my property. Her keeping it against my explicit demand isn't a messy breakup negotiation. It's theft, pure and simple. Her text wasn't a power move. It was Exhibit A, Alex replied within minutes. Received. Demand letter drafted and will be sent via certified mail and email first thing tomorrow morning. 48-hour clock starts upon confirmed delivery. Keep your phone on. I closed the email. Took a deep breath. The anger was still there, a cold, hard knot in my stomach. But overlaying it was the quiet satisfaction of logic applied, of a strategy unfolding exactly as designed. She wanted to play games with consequences. Fine, let's play. But I wasn't playing checkers anymore. This was chess, and she'd just moved her queen directly into my line of fire. The demand letter went out Monday morning, certified mail and email. 48 hours. Wednesday morning came and went. Silence. Not a word from Emma, not a peep from her lawyer if she even had one. She was ignoring it, calling my bluff. Or maybe she was just that arrogant that convinced of her own narrative where she was the victim entitled to whatever she deemed compensation. I kept checking the delivery confirmations. Email opened. Certified mail signed for her mother's signature, actually. Interesting. So they knew. The family knew she was holding my $20,000 workstation hostage, and they were letting her. Or maybe they believed her lies, whatever she was spinning at home. It didn't matter. The clock had run out. Wednesday afternoon, I emailed Alex again. Deadline passed. No response. Proceed with filing the civil suit for conversion and the criminal complaint for felony theft as planned. His reply was swift. Filings initiated. Will update you. The rest of Wednesday was tense. Knowing I had set legal wheels in motion, irreversible ones, felt heavy. This wasn't just deactivating a credit card anymore. This involved police reports, courts, potentially a criminal record for her. Was I going too far? Then I remembered her smile at the party, her text, "It's mine now, I deserve it." No. This was the logical consequence of her actions. I didn't create this situation. I was just navigating the fallout according to the rules. Thursday morning, I was deep into debugging a complex piece of code when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Usually I'd ignore it, but Alex had told me to keep my line open. I answered, bracing myself. Dylan speaking. Dylan, it's Mark, Emma's father. His voice was low, tight like wound steel. Not angry like I expected. Something else. Exhausted. Ashamed. Mark, hello. I need to see you. Are you free to talk in person? Is Emma with you? I needed to know what I was walking into. No, God no, just me, please, it's important. We agreed to meet at a quiet coffee shop near my office in an hour. The code forgotten, my mind raced. Why did he want to meet? Was he going to threaten me? Plead for her? Offer a settlement? He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, staring into a black coffee. He looked older, defeated. The confident, retired businessman I remembered from family dinners was gone, replaced by a man carrying an immense weight. Mark, and I said, sitting down. He didn't waste time. Dylan, I owe you an apology, a profound one, for my daughter's behavior. He could barely get the words out. I just came from a pawn shop downtown. My blood ran cold. Pawn shop, why? Your lawyer's letter, he continued, rubbing his temples. It arrived yesterday. Emma tried to hide it, dismiss it as you being dramatic. But her mother saw it, showed it to me. $20,000. Felony theft. Dylan, we had no idea. She told you nothing. She told us you cut her off, kicked her out over a silly argument. That you were being controlling with money. We believed her. Or we wanted to. He took a shaky breath. When I confronted her about the letter about the workstation, she finally broke down. She sold parts of it, Dylan. The coffee cup felt heavy in my hand. She what? Not the whole thing. She said she panicked. After you cut off the card, she needed money. She took out the graphics card, the processor, some of the memory sticks, the expensive bits, the ones she knew were special. Mark's voice cracked. She took them to a computer repair shop, one of those dodgy places near the university. Told them they were old spare parts she found while cleaning. They gave her $1,500 for them. $1,500. For components worth 10 times that easily. Components I had chosen, installed components linked to my father. The cold knot in my stomach tightened into ice. It wasn't just theft anymore. It was violation, desecration. I didn't know, Mark whispered, looking utterly broken. Until your lawyer's letter forced the truth out. She sobbed, saying she was going to buy them back later, that it was just temporary. He trailed off, shaking his head. So where are they now? My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. I got them back. Mark pushed a crumpled receipt across the table. I took your lawyer's letter, the original invoices you thankfully sent copies of, down to that damn shop this morning. Had to threaten them with receiving stolen property. They knew they'd been had buying high-end rare components off the books like that. They made me pay $2,000 to get them back. The $1,500 they gave her plus $500 for their trouble. $2,000. Gone. Just like that. Because his daughter decided my legacy, my work, my property was worth $1,500 in quick cash. Mark looked me straight in the eye. Dylan, I am mortified. There's no excuse. None. She'll pay me back every damn cent if it takes her the rest of her life. But that doesn't fix this. He slid a small padded electronics box across the table. These are the parts. I hope they're okay. I didn't open the box. Couldn't bring myself to. The image of those components, my components, sitting on a dusty shelf in some back alley repair shop, treated like junk. It made me physically sick. The shock was fading, replaced by something colder, harder. A finality. Any lingering shred of doubt, any microscopic thought of maybe this being a misunderstanding, evaporated. This was who she was. Capable of not just betrayal, but of calculated destruction of something she knew was deeply meaningful to me, all for a quick buck. And then lying about it to everyone, including her own father. Mark was still talking, apologizing, explaining how he'd tried to raise her better, how her mother enabled her, how this was the last straw. But I barely heard him. My mind was already moving ahead. Damage assessment, next steps, complete severance. I just sat there staring at the padded box Mark had pushed across the table. Inside were the violated pieces of my workstation. My father's legacy ransomed back for $2,000. Mark looked down at his own hands, seemingly unable to meet my eyes. She used your grief, he said, his voice barely a whisper. She knew how much that machine, those parts from your dad, meant to you, and she still... God, Dylan. He finally looked up, his eyes filled with a weary shame I hadn't expected. There are no words. What she did, it's unforgivable. I didn't offer comfort. I didn't offer absolution. I just nodded a single curt movement. The damage was done. Apologies wouldn't resolder the connections or erase the disrespect. He seemed to understand. He slid the box closer to me. I checked them as best I could, he said. The shop owner swore they hadn't been damaged, just stored. But you'll know better than me. I still didn't touch the box. Thank you for getting them back, Mark, I said. My voice was level, devoid of the anger churning beneath the surface. It was the voice I used for difficult data reports, the one that presented facts without embellishment. It's the least I could do, he sighed. The absolute bare minimum. He pushed the crumpled pawnshop receipt next to the box. Proof if you need it, though I suspect your lawyer has already documented everything. He has. We sat in silence for another moment. The clatter of coffee cups around us felt distant, intrusive. Mark cleared his throat. Emma, she's waiting in the car outside, he said, gesturing vaguely towards the window. I glanced over. Through the cafe window, I could see his sedan parked across the street. And there she was, Emma, slumped in the passenger seat, staring fixedly at her lap. Even from this distance, I could see the slumped shoulders, the posture of defeat, but not the posture of remorse, not the posture of someone wanting to face the consequences, just hiding, unable or unwilling to even walk in here and face me after what she'd done, after what she'd forced her own father to do. She wanted to come in, Mark said, misinterpreting my glance. To apologize. Did she? He winced at the skepticism in my voice. She said she did. I told her no. Not now. Maybe not ever. What good would it do? He shook his head. Words are cheap, Dylan. Especially hers, it seems. He stood up, then pushing his chair back heavily. She'll be paying me back for that $2,000, he said, his voice hardening, regaining a sliver of the authoritative tone I remembered. Every single paycheck, a portion comes straight to me. Until she's 40, if that's what it takes. She needs to learn. God, she needs to learn. He paused at the edge of the table, looking down at me one last time. You know, Dylan, he said, his voice low again. I liked you, always did. Saw you as solid, dependable, the kind of man I hoped my daughter would end up with. He offered a wry, humorless smile. Turns out you were too good for her. Way too good. You dodged a bullet, son. Remember that. And with that, he turned and walked out of the coffee shop, leaving me alone with the box of violated components and the bitter taste of his words. Dodged a bullet. Yeah. Maybe more like a nuclear warhead. I watched him cross the street, get into his car. I saw Emma flinch as he shut the door, saw her refuse to look up as he drove away. They disappeared around the corner, leaving only the exhaust fumes hanging in the air. Finally, I reached out and pulled the box towards me. My hands were steady. The analytical part of my brain was already calculating the time needed to inspect the parts, the cost of replacements, if anything was truly damaged, the hours required to rebuild. The emotional part, it was cauterized. Numb. Whatever I had felt for Emma, love, anger, betrayal, had burned itself out, leaving only a cold, empty space. I picked up the box. It felt heavier than it should. I stood up, left the coffee shop, and walked back towards my office, back towards the logic and order that she had tried and failed to shatter. The checkmate was complete. All that remained was clearing the board. So what happened to Emma? The fallout was comprehensive, predictable if you ran the numbers. Her attempt to launch a manifesting millions empire imploded spectacularly. The disastrous launch party followed by the news of her attempted theft and the pawnshop incident, which Mark in his quiet fury made sure key family members knew about, shredded what little credibility she had. Brands she'd been courting backed away. The few people who had signed up for her course demanded refunds. Her social media presence, once her primary asset, became a liability. Mia, Camilla and Chloe vanished from her life faster than avocado toast at brunch. Why did her social circle evaporate so quickly? It comes down to something called social capital. There are two main types: the deep trusting bonds built on loyalty. That's bonding capital. Then there's the superficial kind built on shared status image or mutual benefit, bridging capital. My small circle, my brother, my close friends, that's bonding capital. They show up, no questions asked. Emma's entire network, however, was pure bridging capital. Her friends were there for the reflected glory, the Instagrammable moments, the perceived proximity to success. A success largely funded by my stability. When the money stopped, when the image cracked, when she became associated with scandal instead of aspiration, the bridge collapsed. They didn't betray her. They simply acted according to the network's design. The benefits ceased, so the connections severed. It's a harsh lesson in building a life on authentic relationships versus curated appearances. She lost the apartment, of course, couldn't afford it alone, and Mark refused to co-sign after the pawnshop fiasco. Last I heard, she moved back into her childhood bedroom burdened by the $2,000 debt to her father and the wreckage of her influencer dreams. Her grand narrative of effortless success had collided head-on with the concrete wall of consequence. And me, I lost $12 for the event ticket and incurred some initial legal fees easily covered. I took a few days off, carefully inspected the salvaged components Mark returned. Miraculously, they were undamaged, just tainted. I couldn't bring myself to put them back into my machine. It felt wrong, so I bought new ones, better ones, an upgrade, funded by the severance of a relationship that was holding me back. The workstation runs faster now, quieter, more efficient. Like my life, my apartment is peaceful. The constant buzz of her content creation, the staged photo shoots in the living room, the endless calls dissecting social media drama, all gone. Replaced by the quiet hum of servers, the click of my keyboard, the sound of my own thoughts. I'm focusing on my work, excelling, taking on more complex projects. Even started developing that passion project I'd shelved because Emma thought it was too nerdy and not brand aligned. Turns out, logic and quiet dedication can be profitable. The contrast isn't lost on me. She chased the vibe of success, the appearance of abundance, and ended up with nothing. I focused on the underlying structure, the code, the reality, and built something solid. It's the difference between a beautifully designed website with no back-end functionality and a robust server handling complex data streams. One looks good, the other works. It's easy to feel satisfied now, seeing how things turned out. My logic prevailed, her illusion shattered. But what if it hadn't? What if my career had stalled? What if I'd faced financial hardship after leaving? Would my decision still have been the right one? The answer, unequivocally, is yes. We tend to judge decisions by their outcomes, a cognitive trap called outcome bias. But the true value of walking away that night wasn't contingent on my future success. It was embedded in the act itself, the act of choosing self-respect over toxic compliance. The victory wasn't securing the workstation or watching her life unravel. The victory occurred the moment I refused to pay their price, the moment I chose my own integrity over her validation. Financial success, peace of mind. Those are welcome results. But the real win, the non-negotiable one, happened the second I walked out that door, choosing my own algorithm over hers. They wanted me to prove my capability by funding their fantasy. In the end, they were the ones who demonstrated a complete inability to handle reality. Emma wanted a power couple, but power derived from someone else's resources isn't power, it's dependency. True power lies in knowing your own value, independent of external validation or $5,000 demands. Sometimes the most logical move isn't to counter their play or try to win their rigged game. Sometimes the smartest move is simply to stand up, pay your $12, leave the board, and let them checkmate themselves.